So, good morning everybody. Hope you're all doing well. I've been on a bit of a journey over the last year. Once I went out and brought some Zip 303 wheels and decided to make the transition over to tubeless. Basically because the Zips, as we all know, they tend to be hookless because that's the new technology. So I bought all in. So I went out, bought some stands, which was sort of the recommended brand to use for tubeless. Didn't get on with that. Literally, every time I had a puncture, it literally covered my whole bike and me in white latex, which for some people would be all right, but for me, not so good. And I was quite bothered by the fact that it's generally sprayed it all over the bike. Also, didn't tend to seal some of the punctures that I was normally getting riding on the canal, because I commute to work on the canal. There's a lot of glass down there. So problematic. So we went from stands and we migrated over to muck-off, and we brought the muck-off, which, as we all know, has the ability to glow under ultraviolet lights. I'm not quite sure why. Don't tend to ride in the middle of the night and don't tend to carry a UV light with me to see where the puncture is. I can pretty much see where the puncture is because it's where the fluid's coming out. And then we went from muck-off to doing a little bit more research about, what are some of the better tubeless fluids out there. And we went back to try slime. So I tried slime many years ago when I had a mountain bike and used it really well. Had it already fitted in the inner tubes and it seemed to do the job. And, mountain bikes, you did tend to get punctures. You couldn't do a snake bite, but it would certainly limit the amount of punctures you'd get with thorns and stuff. Went away from that in the end because it was just too heavy, and ultimately done a little bit more research and went the Silca way. So we went and brought the Silca, which was listed as the most advanced tube sealant you could get your hands on. Little strands of carbon fibre in. Sort of made sense. So I invested in quite a large bottle of that. Bought it. Brought the replenisher as well. Put it back into the wheels and the tyres and still continued to have punctures. Only this time it was slightly worse because this stuff really does stick to everything, because this is, it must be a higher quality latex that they Silca are using, but it does tend to stick to everything. So again, it would cover the bike and stuff. Had mud guards on at the time and it would literally cover the inside of the mud guards and get really quite messy, but equally didn't tend to seal some of the punctures that I was getting. I don't know whether it was the size of the punctures, I don't know if it was the type of punctures. I'm not quite sure what was going on. So that sort of meant I went out and I brought and invested in a Dura plug, and spent quite a lot of money on buying one of their really nice pills with all the little tools inside and a couple of sealant sticks to go inside the holes. That seemed to work. And certainly got me out of a trouble on a few punctures that I had riding into work, where I literally got off the bike, stuck this plug in, pumped it back up and went into work, and that was relatively successful. However, I started to realise it was the dynamics of what I was spending. So this was very expensive, this was, from Dynaplug. And the little plugs, inserts that go into the tyre are equally very expensive. When I used a few of them and I went and bought to try and buy some new ones, and I think the pack of 5 was 20 quid. And I've seen them as low as 15 quid on eBay, but I don't think they're for push bikes. I think they're more orientated towards motorbikes. But again, this sort of pushed the price up then per puncture of round about anything from £4 to £5. And I sort of had an epiphany moment, and I thought, well, this makes no sense whatsoever. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a different alternative. And that alternative ultimately has ended up with going and buying inner tubes and going back to inner tubes. TPUs might be the future for racing bikes. They're certainly not the future for commuting bikes. And tubeless, I don't necessarily believe, if you're commuting, unless you're on really smooth, tarmac, I don't believe that tubeless is the future either. Hookless maybe, but not the, sealants and all that sort of nonsense. So I've gone back to inner tubes. So I brought myself some decent inner tubes, £3.50, got a bargain off Amazon, and then sort of looked at the mechanics of then filling those inner tubes up. So you need a pump, or if you went my way, CO2 cartridges. So invested in some CO2 cartridges because I'm running 45 tyres on my zips. I had to buy the bigger cartridges because otherwise I'd be carrying dozens and dozens of cartridges because they don't tend to fill up the 45 tyres or the big gravel tyres or mountain tyres. And then I sort of got a little bit sidetracked at looking at this new technology that started about a year and a half, 2 years ago, about electric pumps and miniature electric pumps for bikes. So I duly went out, looked at Lazine, didn't do one, looked at Top Peak, hadn't got one out in the market yet, and looked at all the other ones that were available, that were all over YouTube and everywhere, and they were all really cheap Chinese ones. That I ordered a couple, looked at the quality, sent them back. In my view, they wouldn't have any longevity whatsoever and wouldn't last 5 minutes, in general use, because they're just not built to do the job. So then, as I said, because Top Peak hadn't got anything out in the market, and because Lazine hadn't got anything out in the market, I was very surprised to see that Silca have come out with what they've defined as their moment product this year. So this is what they're saying is going to be their really important product for 2025. And to be honest with you, once I got my hands on one, and there's a little bit of a story to this as well. So normally retail for £149, which is a tad expensive for a pump if you think about it. However, I managed to get a welcome back discount off Silca UK and got it for £126. So for £126, I mean, that's in the ballpark for me because of the convenience that it will possibly bring. And I have to say, now that it's arrived and I've looked at it, it is a quality product. I mean, Silca, in my opinion, what they tend to do, and I'm fairly certain this is what they're doing, is they're looking at a problem with bikes and they are then designing a product around meeting and addressing that problem with bikes and cycling, and then they are producing a product and they don't really care how much it costs. It costs what it costs to produce, a quality product. And they're also looking to introduce innovation in the marketplace as well and doing things slightly different to other people. And have ended up producing what I think is the answer to most cyclists' problems when you get a puncture and you're worrying about pumping up your tyres. So, bit of a geek as well, technology-wise, and one of the really interesting features about this is when you switch it on, it resets and calibrates the pressure monitor inside the unit every time you switch it on. And it also does some swanky stuff, so the instructions tell me about where you are, how high you are in the world and all that sort of stuff. I'm not really interested in that. I just want to know it calibrates itself and it's going to put my tyres up. So again, I've seen a YouTube video that a person has done on YouTube where they've actually taken this apart and they've showed us the insides of it. And I must admit, again, Silca being Silca, they've designed it and they've made it with quality in mind. It's got a 3S LiPo pack inside it, so pushing just under 12 volts on the voltage. It's got a brushless motor inside from a drone, so they tell me. But again, the important thing is it's a brushless motor, so the reliability of brushless motors is spectacular. Which means it's going to be very reliable. It's machined aluminium inside on a machined aluminium chassis, which is probably why it costs 149 quid. But again, if you're like me, what you want is you want things to work, and you are bothered by price, but then you look at how much you've just spent on your bike and a set of wheels. Price is not the priority. What the priority is if you go out and you get a puncture, you're going to be able to pump it up. And partly as well, you're going to be able to show off to your mates and say, well, actually, look what I've got now. Look at my swanky new pump. Let's have a go with it and let's see how it works. Because there's always a little bit of kudos attached to these things. So what I'm going to do now is, I've not tried this, so I've unboxed it, looked at it, and I'm very, very impressed with the quality of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the bike behind. It's got Zip 303s on at the moment. It's got 45 tyres on, so quite big tyres, almost mountain bike tyres. And we're going to let both of them down, and then we're going to pump both of them up from zero. Because with this comes a couple of little caveats with this. Obviously, if you're using TPUs, it will tend to melt the plastic stems on TPUs because of how hot this gets if you're using it to blow up quite a big tyre. I would imagine it would get quite hot just because of the friction of the air coming out. So tend not to use on TPUs. If you do use it for big tyres, it's on a metal stem, on a tube. The stem could possibly get quite hot. Silca are giving a warning that it might burn you. We're about to find out. I'll let you know how hot they get. I don't think it'll get that hot, to be honest with you. It will get warm, but I don't think it'll get hot enough to burn you. And it does both sets of tyres. But again, the really good thing is auto shut off. So you set the pressure you want, you put it on the tyre, it pumps it up. Hopefully that's it, but we're going to let both of them down. I'm going to try it on both of them and make sure that this bad boy can pump up both things. If you are like me and you're cycling along and tend to have 2 punches at a time, because they've invariably go over one piece of glass and it just goes straight in the back, and then I have to change both. So let's give it a go. Let's move to the bike. So here we are. If I can get my camera to work, let's get this valve around. Let's get to this one. So I am actually going to let it completely down by taking the valve out. So I've seen a few people use this pump in videos. They've not tended to take out the whole valve, so you're not quite sure whether the tyres are fully flat or not. But like I said, we're going to give it a bit of a go. See how well it does. I mean, looking inside, to be fair, looking inside, it should be fairly spectacular. So there we go. I mean, the valve's out. We are completely flat on that one. So let's put the valve back in. Right, let's get the pump out of my pocket. Let's stick it on. So let's see what we're doing with it. There we go. Let's set the PSI. So the PSI, I'm not sure whether you can see at the moment, sort of set to 100 psi. Now it does say in the instructions that this will only pump up to 100 psi. Because these are Zip 303 XLRs with 45 tyres on, I'm actually running 40 psi, so I'm not sure if you can see that, but that's 40 psi, and that should go on and then auto shut off. So let's try. So we're on. Yeah, I think part of the problem here is it doesn't. I don't think you can use it I don't think you can use it one-handed. I think it likes to be fully on. There we go. And it's not that noisy, to be fair. I mean, it seems alright. What I would say is it likes to be fully pushed on. There you go. So, well, that's very nice actually. A little bit of a problem there with the use. I've got quite short stems on this, and it likes to be pushed fully on. Anyway, so let's crack on. Let's do the front one. Let's get this front one round, and let's get this valve out. And again, I've seen some of these and they're really, really troublesomely, annoyingly noisy. Some of the ones I've seen. What I would say, this is quite difficult doing one-handed, but the valve's out. I think you'd have to agree that's fully flat. So put the valve back up, and again, let's get the pump, and let's see. So it's got an auto shut off, so it will shut off if you're not using it. But again, you can see there, it's set for 41 psi. And let's get the valve around and let's get this on. But like I said, it does want to be really pushed quite well on. And then off we go. There you go. You know, reasonably quick. A lot easier than a hand pump. Welcome to the 21st century. So yeah, so there we go. So yeah, so there we go. 2 tyres, big 45s, completely pumped up in quite a reasonable time. I don't know what else to say. I really like it. Is it hot? No, it's not even started to get warm, to be honest with you. Are the valve stems hot when I was doing them up? No, they're not hot. I would imagine, I mean, you'd have to be doing a pretty big mountain bike tyre or one of the big, really big oversized tyres, if you ask me, about to get anywhere near it getting uncomfortably hot to the point where it would burn you. You know, there is a little warning on it, and it says that if you are using this to pump up a tyre or to top up a tyre that's already inflated, they're recommending that you switch it on first and then put it onto the valve, because obviously it's quite a thing to try and get a little pump like this to try and kick over the air pressure and overcome the air pressure that's already in the tyre. But again, works really well made. In fact, if Silca are listening, the only thing I would say to Silca is, number one, yes, it's nice to have a little waterproof bag, because it comes with a little waterproof bag. Very nice, very sensible. But what I would really have liked to see in the pack is a little pouch to put it in, so it looks as good as it does now after being used for a few years. Because again, this thing is going to last a long time. This is not going to break down quickly. This is going to last for quite a long time, because again, it is really well made. I mean, I can't really say, I sound like a fanboy for Silca now, but due respect to them, you know, as I said, they've designed something, they've looked at a problem, they've designed something, and they've literally applied no costings to that. And then once they've got the product, they've then decided, right, what are people prepared to pay? Well, actually, with £126, which is what it cost me with the discount code that I used, I'm prepared to pay that, and as long as it lasts me a while, I'm happy with that. Anyway, this has been another video by Cycling with Terry, or Cycling with Tez as I'm known. I will start to do a few more, to be fair. I've just got to find the time to do them. I've brought quite a bit of stuff, you know, I've got a lot of Garmin stuff, and also I've got to do a report on the wheels, because I must say that the Zip 303 XLRs, whilst I was a little bit suspicious and sort of thinking, is it Zip just making more money off us? They actually work really well, and they roll really, really well and make a big change to the bike. And again, you can run ultra low tyre pressures, so cut down on the punches as well. So anyway, so that's it. Silca Elettrico, what are they calling this? Elettrico. I've no idea what they call it. I just call it Silca Electric, the more expensive one. Buy one, because they're well worth it. And see you soon.